I'd like to call the meeting to order. As there are quorum present, the canvassers have a number. Anyone who has not checked in with the canvassers, please do so now. A quorum is present. There are 111 voters. Please turn off your cell phones or set them to vibrate. You must use the microphone to ensure you can be heard and that those watching you from home can hear you. The rules of procedure. Any voter shall have the right to be heard, and no vote shall be taken until all persons who desire to be heard on the subject of the vote have been heard. All questions and statements shall be directed to the moderator, and no person shall be heard until recognized by the moderator. The moderator will limit a voter to one opportunity to speak on any motion or amendment and limit the time to speak to 2 minutes. There shall be a main motion and a second on each question presented prior to any discussion or other motions. One amendment at a time shall be permitted to any main motion. No further amendment shall be entertained until disposal of the pending amendment. If an amendment is adopted, then the main motion is amended and further amendments to the motion as amended shall be in order. If there are none, then a vote shall be taken on the main motion as amended. The vote shall be taken by a voice vote, standing vote, or ballot as determined by the moderator, provided that the vote must be taken by ballot. If a voter shall call for the same, and the call is supported by 1/5 of the voters present. Motions for a paper ballot may be made at any time up until a vote is called for. The conduct of the meeting is governed by the laws of the state of Rhode Island and the town of New Shoreham. Robert's Rules of Order are used as a guide. All questions shall be decided by a majority of the voters present. In New Shoreham on the 26th day of April, 2024, I have notified and warned the electors of said town of New Shoreham of the time, when, and place where said financial town meeting is to be holden, and of the business to be transacted therein, by posting written notification of said meeting in the following public places in New Shoreham, to wit, one at Town Hall, one at Island Free Library, one at Block Island Grocery. Thomas Sturgeon, Town Sergeant. A motion would be in order to waive the reading of the warrant in its entirety. Motion has been approved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Pursuant to Chapter 3 of Title 45, you are hereby required to post at least 7 days before the 6th day of May, AD 2024, written notifications in 3 or more public places in said town of New Shoreham, Rhode Island, notifying and warning the electors of the town of New Shoreham qualified to vote upon any proposition to impose a tax or for the expenditure of money to assemble in town meeting at the Block Island School in the central part of the town of New Shoreham on Monday, the 6th of May, AD 2024, at 7 p.m. for the purpose of ordering a tax to be levied and assessed on the rateable property of the town and the inhabitants thereof for the payment of the town debts and interest, for the payment of the town's proportion of the state tax, for the support of schools, for the support and maintenance of the poor, for the building, repairing, and amending of highways, for the building, repairing, and amending of bridges, for the improvement in any manner deemed fit of any property belonging to the town, for all necessary charges and expenses whatsoever arising within the town, whether incidental or not to the above. Also, to consider the following. To receive and act upon the town treasurer's report of the receipts and expenditures of said town for the fiscal year 2024. A motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Chris, do you mind if I take a minute? Sure. Thank you. The treasurer's report can be found on page 54 of 94 in your packets, and it won't take very long. But just when looking at the current 24 budget, we're heading into the home stretch. Expenditures are running very close to budget, and we are working on managing those expenditures to the end of the fiscal year. In terms of revenues, they've been fairly good. Building permit revenues in particular have been very strong this year, which helps to offset some higher than usual abatements on the tax collection side, which were related to reval and abatements subsequent to that. So overall, we're running pretty well even in our revenue versus expenditure measure. And in aggregate, the town remains strong, stable, and financially steady. I'm happy to take questions if anyone has them on the fiscal year 24 current year report.
Yes? You're going to have to come up to the mic, see.
I assume that page 3 is part of the treasurer's report. It's the income, and I have 2 questions. One is, all the license fees went up except taxis and mopeds, and I want to know why that is. And the other question is, building permit income actually went down by almost $50,000, and we've had a lot of building here this year.
First, relative to the moped and the taxi license revenues, both of those, I believe, are set at the maximum under state statute. So those are fixed under the law. And then I'm sorry to call you back up, but could you clarify what page you're looking at for that building permit revenue in that on page 3 of 24, which is in the upper left corner labeled 56 of 94. that's the current year to date, $326,364. 10 of 94 is in the current year budget. So I'm happy to talk about the current year 25 numbers when we get to the 25 proposed budget. But in the current year 24, we're actually running about $75,000 over budget and about $150,000 over prior year.
Any other questions? The motion has been made and seconded to receive and act upon the town treasurer's report of the receipts and expenditures. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. A motion would be in order to receive and act upon the superintendent's report for the school district for the fiscal year 2024.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to present the New Shoreland School Department fiscal year 25 budget. Tonight, I'd like to, on page 1 of the document we shared, in the document you have, you'll see some very important and positive Block Island School highlights for fiscal year 24. We have our new principal who's sitting in the back of me, Principal Dan Warner. He's the chair of the Rhode Island Interscholastic League Principal Committee. Under his leadership, the Rhode Island Interscholastic League is the first state high school association in the country to have 100% of its members earn status of National Federation of State High School Association honor roll by having all schools participate in online coaches education courses. Dan is also developing creative new schedules for next year that will include seminar courses, and those courses will allow our students more opportunities at face-to-face classes for the more challenging advanced placement classes. In the area of competitive grants, last year our athletic director wrote 6 grants that totaled approximately $30,000. And at the beginning of this year, he had already written and received another $20,000. The town manager worked collaboratively with the school department. She also worked closely with Governor McKee on a Learn 365 grant that brought $50,000 worth of educational programming outside the school day. Those programs included Crazy 8 elementary math clubs and PSAT, SAT prep courses, all kinds of exciting outside of the normal day educational opportunities for kids to expand their learning. The school building committee also recommended the administration write a Learning Inside Out grant for $100,000, which we were awarded. And that grant will allow us to build an outdoor classroom that goes along with our values around conservation. In the area of rigorous professional development, under the Rhode Island Right to Read Act, school districts were required to have all professional staff certified in the science of reading and structural literacy by fiscal year 25. Block Island School achieved this goal by fiscal year 24, ahead of schedule. This year, we focused our professional development on differentiating instruction to meet the needs of all learners. And this year, our state accountability star rating increased from 2 stars to 3 stars. This was in large part due to our increases in students participating in those online advanced placement courses. And so I just want you to know when you read those highlights that your investment in education last year paid off with all of these accomplishments. So I really wanted to show you how lucky we have been this year, and looking forward, we prepared our budgets for the town to review.
A motion has been made and seconded to act upon the superintendent's report. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. To receive a motion would be in order to receive and act upon the medical center report by Block Island Health Services for the calendar year 2023. Motion has been made and seconded. Discussion? Is there anybody from the medical services at the medical center here? No? Are there any questions? A motion has been made and seconded to receive and act upon the medical center report. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. To receive and act, a motion would be in order to receive and act upon the Block Island Housing Board report for the fiscal year 2024. Motion has been made and seconded. Discussion? Any questions? A motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. The motion would be in order to receive and act upon the Block Island Land Trust report for fiscal year 2024. Motion has been made and seconded. Discussion? Any questions? Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. The town manager is now going to speak.
Good evening, and thank you very much for joining this evening's financial town meeting. This year's budget attempted to address many of the long overdue needs of our growing island. The budget was passed by the council. However, we did exceed the 4% tax levy cap. When that happens, we need to submit it to the state a request to exceed that. We did it under two different situations. One is an override for our debt service in the amount of $695,714. That was specifically for the bond issue that was authorized by you, the voters, back in July of 2020 for the broadband projects, which we're pleased to say as of October this year, November, all homes and residents and businesses were hooked up with some trackers, obviously. What the state did not approve was a little over $1 million targeted to meet growing needs identified by our dedicated department heads and also members of the public. With this override not approved, the tax levy increase originally was slated for 17.9%. This evening before you, to comply with the state statute, we are now looking at a tax levy of 9.6%. Included in the $1 million was $600,000 for a portable salt water pumper, mainly to be used in significant fire events like we had last summer at the Harborside. Chief Hobie and the rest of the volunteers, firefighters felt very strongly that this is something that we needed this year. Also was not approved was $100,000 identified for upgrades to securities and, in our dispatch area. Both these items were not approved, by the state under substantial growth. At a recent council meeting just last week on May 3rd, the town council talked extensively about options specifically for these two items. The options will be, one, have a special financial town meeting somewhere down the road, not too far in the distance. And the second is to put it on the ballot as a referendum for the November general election. A decision has been made which way to go. However, I can guarantee you there'll be more discussion of these two important items that were identified to be included in the budget. Also, under this substantial growth, we will be looking to amend a number of items in the budget by each department, and we'll go through that this evening. These adjustments, although will be significant and will affect some departments, we are still confident that the budget that we're presenting before you this evening will meet and provide the services that Block Island is used to. We still have some needs that we will not be funding this year. Rest assured that we'll continue to explore options and fund those or explore options to fund those in the coming next fiscal year, after this fiscal year. As always, I thank you for your time and effort and voting and participating in this financial town meeting. And I look forward to serving and continue working with the voters here, as well as our dedicated department heads, who I would like to thank for their hard work through this budget session, and also Amy Land, who for the past 2 months, the two of us have been pretty much joined at them. So thank you very much, and I'll send it back over to our moderator.
A motion would be in order, and a second to open the fiscal year 2025 budget. Motion has been made and seconded. Finance Director would like to say a few words.
Thank you. As Mary Ann mentioned, changes to this budget will be proposed during the evening to bring the budget into compliance with state law. I don't want to take away, however, from all of the other line items in this budget that are important to support the town. Please ask questions where you have them. I don't want some narrow discussions on the cap items or other areas of focus to take away from the rest of the important work that we do. We don't vote on the revenue side of the budget, but there are in fiscal year 25 very few changes proposed beyond the taxes from the current year budget. Building permit revenue has been seeing projected growth. That is on page 3 of the proposed budget. Just to address our own section. The recommended amount for fiscal year 25 is $275,000. That is a $25,000 increase from the current year budget. It is below what we're seeing year to date this year so far. But we're a little unsure of exactly when those building trends may dip or pause, or the pace of the projects that we're currently seeing. So that is a somewhat conservative estimate on the building permit revenues for fiscal year 25. The other revenue line that has a proposed increase is that the town is requesting an increase from the Department of Transportation for support of the state roads. That agreement is currently under discussion, but we've included that increase in our proposed budget. We will go through the expenditures in detail, but overall, the town is still in negotiations with the employees union, so the wage figures that we're presenting tonight are subject to final agreement. Also, health and dental benefits came in lower than initially projected, resulting in aggregate savings of $10,716. So as we look through the process tonight, you'll see each department amended to reflect those savings. Also, there are 2 grants, one for $60,000 related to shoreline access and one for $15,000 related to pickleball courts that the town was not awarded. These will be proposed for removal. as well as some other changes that we may discuss throughout the evening. Shortly, we will turn to the administration department and jump right in. That's on page 16 of 94, if you want to get there ahead of time. But I'll turn it back to the moderator, who I believe is going to recognize the first one.
First warden would like to speak.
You're good? Perfect. Can you guys hear me? Sure. Trying to do that. Okay. So as you can imagine, it's been a long several weeks, I think, for all of us, and especially long last several days since the state made its decision. And I think every one of us up here has tortured this document for weeks, and again, especially in the last few days. The decision on the state's part was has been challenging to deal with. But I've learned I think we've all learned a couple of things over the last several weeks. The first is that we have a large number of genuinely compelling / urgent projects that we need to start undertaking. And you can see those, if you look at Amy and Mary Ann's great document, you can see those kind of in the right-hand side of the three things. We have the 4%, we have the debt service override, and then we have the column on the right-hand side. To me, if that initial budget, and Martha was just showing it, if it serves, I think it serves an important purpose. It is in a lot of ways sort of a guidepost to what we are going to have to be doing. Yeah. Page 36. Thank you so much, Neil. Yeah, thank you, Martha. We've had significant growth. Everybody feels it, notwithstanding what the state said. We have significant capacity issues. We have significant climate resiliency needs, and we have significant public health and safety needs. And for me, and I don't want to speak for anybody else, that's sort of why I'm here, is to try to address those things. So the other thing is, and Mary Ann mentioned this, two of the things that are on that page are especially urgent. I don't think I probably have to go in too long to explain to everybody how important a mobile pumper truck is after what we faced last summer. That is an expensive piece of equipment, but we need it, you know. Secondly, this hardening of dispatch, as I refer to it, that's the $100,000. We have a dispatch that I would argue is not like probably any other dispatch operation in the state, maybe in the region, who knows, where you can basically just sort of walk in and say, hey, how you doing? It's a real problem, and it is not up to standard. And I'll tell you, those people and that place is the heartbeat of all of the extraordinary work that volunteers and paid professionals do across our town every month. So again, I think you're likely to see either a special financial town meeting, because we can't, you know, we've been told we can't do this tonight, we can't pay cash for it. At some point in the very near future, we'll figure out how we're going to place that before you. I do think it's worthwhile sort of, I think we have, potentially a relatively sane and rational approach to the 4% part of the budget, to get us under the 4% levy cap. I just sort of, to make clear, there's two aspects of this. There's the 4%, which is our levy cap, our general government, if you will. And then there's, the 5 point something, which is, the bond issue that we voted on a few years ago to build the broadband network. That now comes online, the state has approved that. So I'd like to just walk through, it's only a half dozen things, but I think we all went through, and you guys are all going through this, you know, how do you get through this challenge with as little disruption as you possibly can, but still maintain genuinely critical investments. So, I don't know if you have those of you who have your documents, under section 23, administration, line 5409. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at that. Just bear with me, guys. Come on. It is page 8 out of 28 of 25, section 23, administration, right? Oh, yeah. Line 5409, page 15. Did I have the wrong document? Oh, sorry. So I'm reading the numbers at the bottom. On the upper right-hand corner, it is page 15 of 94. Sorry about that. I didn't realize there were numbered differently. Sort of a double secret budgeting approach. Again, line 5409 has a provision for retaining a personnel consultant. I would suggest that we eliminate that. That saves $20,000. Line 9000 is contingency. We have tried to beef that up over time, but this is a contingency if ever there were one. So I'm suggesting that we reduce that by $13,685. Everybody with me? Reducing it by $13,685. Yeah. Moving on to section 80, capital tax. Is page 31 of 94 if you're an upper right-hand corner person. It's page 24 of 25 if you're a lower center person. This is all part of a grand psychological experiment. On that one, there is $15,000 for pickleball match on line 5400. That's right. 5420. Thank you. I love pickleball. I want to support pickleball. Pickleball is my friend. Pickleball delights me. I think it's an extraordinarily valuable activity. But the $15,000 was our matching portion for a grant that we did not receive. It is our hope to be able to apply again next year. It is a recurring grant. There may be other opportunities in the next fiscal year, but it's money that we don't have a project to spend on because we didn't get the grant. So I would suggest that we eliminate that. On the other side of the budget, under community services, which is, bear with me, but page 29, upper right or middle? Page 29, upper right. There are two things here. One is in line 5501. Is that right? Right. 5501. I would suggest that we reduce that line by $10,000. That would give the fire department an appropriation of 29, if I recall correctly, or no, that would add back the 29. And then in line 5500 for the medical center, I would suggest that we reduce their number from 14 to 10. Remember that both these things, this is not about them. Both these things were in our application to the state for increases. The state said no. So this still constitutes an increase. It is a reduction in the increase to demonstrate our commitment to the value of their work. There's two ways we can do this, which is really what this is about. Two ways we can do this. Oh, and I also forgot. Marianne mentioned the benefits thing. Aggregated, that's $10,000. That would be another savings, if you will, cut. We could, if the body likes, our solicitors have said we can do a single motion to implement, to do these things that I have described. None of which I don't think are terribly controversial. That would not change our going through every department. It would not change, you can, the body can decide to cut more, can decide to add more if it finds cuts, et cetera, et cetera. But as a practical matter, if we do, for example, the benefits, in every department, we will have to, because we're realistic, we'll have to cut like $1,200 from this department, $800 from another, whereas we could do a single amendment that says, okay, these things that keep this listed essentially be, Amy was taking under the table, would essentially become the budget that we're working from. So I don't know what your pleasure is here. I happen to think that single motion lets us get to the other good. Sure, yes. Neil just asked to add some context to the state's action last week. The town council recommended by 4/5 to exceed the cap. Amy put together an entire package that was, in my opinion, quite compelling, and I actually think the Department of Administrative Services found it quite compelling. And basically using a provision in state law that says you can exceed the 4% cap if you have experienced significant growth. As I said earlier, I think we all feel that. Unfortunately, their measure for that are things like major subdivisions, major commercial projects. Whatever, Washington Trust decides to build a new headquarters on Block Island, that would qualify. But as a practical matter, it's going to be, very challenging, if not impossible, for us to meet, that provision. And, the timing of it left us in a position of you're having to listen to me sort of drone on, because we had already taken action and placed the budget before the financial town meeting. There's no sort of, excuse me, could we have that back and make these fixes? So anyway, does that add what you think?
And then just the timing of the denial and us not feeling the excitement.
Right, yes. The denial, I believe, was issued Wednesday or Thursday of last week. So it's been, it was not, something that we were, engaged in or privy to, so. What do you think? You want to do one motion?
Yes.
We need our moderator. I don't want to take a job. Please.
So I'm gonna do my best to summarize Steve's motion. If it takes me 2 tries, be patient. But I believe the motion would be to amend the administration department, reducing it by $33,685, representing the personnel consultant and a reduction in contingency. A reduction of the capital tax budget by $15,000, representing the DEM pickleball grant. A reduction of all relevant benefit lines in the aggregate amount of $10,715. And an amendment reducing the community support line by $14,000. Which represents 10,000 from Block Island Fire and Rescue and $4,000 from Block Island Health Services. Does that feel like a motion?
Exactly what you said.
The motion has been made and seconded. We have discussion. Mr. Lewis?
I confess to being just marginally confused. Is what that motion says, does it reflect this second sheet that was an added handout in its entirety, or a subset, or has it changed in some manner? I don't have any complaints if any of that is correct. I just think I need to know.
I'll start with that, and people may want to add on. It does not represent what you have on the back of the handout, with the full numbers. It does represent the benefit components of that. So I'll stop there. That is the answer to your question.
So follow-on question is, there are other, the second amendment that you're going to propose after this amendment is voted, that would cover the capital tax items in some different manner?
If this motion were successful, there would still need to be additional amendments throughout the budget, including particularly capital tax, in order to bring the aggregate budget down to within the state limit on the tax levy. And that total amount that we need to reduce the budget is $1,043,900. So what the first warden's motion has done is taken care of some of those items and reallocated some of them to other areas that were going to be cut further, like health services and fire and rescue. You'll notice the boxes around those numbers are larger, and so if we just wholesale, removed everything, we would take out more of the support. The first ordinance motion actually maintains some of that by trimming other budget line items.
Said, I'm full support, and, thank you for that clarification, and I would ask that as those boxes come in to play, as we discuss the individual departments, that they be brought to the public's attention. Thank you.
Yes. Please identify yourself.
Carol Blaine. Yeah, I, like David, am equally totally confused by what is going on here. I thought we would be following the warrant that is presented in front of us, and that the budget was now coming up, and we would follow department by department and make the cuts as we went. Why has this been thrown at people to confuse us with 100 pieces of paper that nobody's had time to read? I just don't understand why it is being done this way, that we don't just go through the budget and make the cuts that we all may want to make, not just ones that are suggested from the table. My other complaint about this meeting is that it would be really nice if we have to come up front and stand up, that people could stand up and come to the mic when they speak.
Thank you.
I think that's an option. That's why I said you can do. Oh, yes.
I think that's an option. That's why I said you can do, one or the other. I suggested it, as an option if you wanted to make those relatively straightforward changes and have them cascade through the budget. But if you don't want to do that, we're still going to go through every department. We're still going to do all that stuff. I think we just thought it might be potentially easier, but I'm here.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, he does. So my first question, I think this started with a statement that the solicitor said they could do a vote in the aggregate. I always was told and assumed that in this process at a financial town meeting, we went department by department and had a vote on the numbers at the end for each department. That's how Amy set this up. This makes sense for what we've always done. And I'm sorry, Keith, but your motion was all over the place. And the idea was to simplify this in relation to what we used to.
Ready? Jim Hinkar, I'm going to speak in support of Keith's position, although I've never seen him on a pickleball court. But I'm guessing, Keith, if you add up Amy's here, and you just look at the benefits, that must total to $10,000 whatever, right? So I think that was an efficient way to do it. I think the other stuff wasn't that difficult to figure out. So I support your motion.
God, thank you. Just to clarify this one more time, and I feel like you heard what I'm having. We are going through this budget item by item, and the only reason it was done the only reason the motion was made was to sort of capsulize what is going to be coming before you. We didn't want, I don't want anyone to misunderstand that this is going to be a vote on the whole budget, or that you're not going to be able to go through each department and vote as we always do. This was just a way of letting you know what was coming. And it seemed easier, as I understood it. I haven't seen the actual numbers, I trust in these numbers, that we had quite a few different amendments to fixing benefits. It would be spread out and simply seemed a cleaner way. But we will be voting on each department.
Thank you. Yes.
So after we vote on each thing, is it still going, oh, sorry. Oh, I'm Mary Ann O'Leary. After we vote on each thing, is it still going to be the 9% or 9-something%, whatever that was? Is that? Motion currently on the floor does not contemplate a change in the maximum tax levy. So the levy would still be the 9.6% that we need to be leaving here tonight as a maximum, if that makes sense. We can't adopt the budget that you have in front of you because that proposes an 18%. We need to take things out. But the motion that the first warden made would keep us at the 9.6%, which is the maximum that we could adopt tonight. Is that clear? That would be lower if it's not other things aren't approved. The question is whether it would be lower if other things were approved. If the voters tonight wanted to make additional motions to reduce other items in the budget, that's how you would go about achieving a reduction in the tax levy. There need to be recommendations for other things to be removed in addition.
Any more questions? If you give me input again, I think probably gives the amount of time we spent on this, we could have gone through each of the items and done it. But that's really not my point. What I really wanted to say at the onset of this meeting tonight is that the issue that I really have is what should be the burden of residential homeowners like me, my wife, and a lot of people in the audience versus what commercial properties don't pay. So I think a lot of this stuff is really, really worthy, but I'm not happy that I'm paying the same, whatever the rate is, 7.08, whatever it is, that a business is paying, because I'm not making money on my house. So it just confused everybody more. Thank you. Any other questions? The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? We'll try that again. Please have a hand vote. Everybody.
The motion on the table is, I'll go through this again, a reduction in the administration department of $33,685, representing the personnel consultant, and a reduction in contingency. A reduction of the capital tax budget of $15,000, representing the DEM pickleball grant. A reduction in the aggregate benefit lines of each relevant department totaling $10,715. A reduction of the community support department of $14,000. $14,000, representing $10,000 from Block Island Fire Department and $4,000 from Block Island Health Services. That is the motion on the floor.
Vote by show of hands. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The motion carries. If you could please turn in the package, page 15 of 94. There's 23, administration. Page 15 of 94. That's the upper right corner, 15 of 94. Administration. A motion would be in order for administration in the amount of $1,673,255. That is the amended number. The motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Doug? Doug, could you wait a minute? Hey, what- Finance Director would like to speak.
Sorry, Doug, thank you for yielding the floor. So I did just want to confirm that number, $1,673,255 for administration. That does represent the three items that we just moved to change. The reduction of the consultant for personnel, the change in the benefit line, and the reduction of contingency. Just in general, a few other things about the administration department. I have to ask my notes somewhere in that, in the paper. But the other major change in the administration department in the fiscal year 25 is the shift of human services, which is carved out for the first time into its own department. We'll get to that 2 pages down the line, but you'll see that a lot of those line items are zeroed out for fiscal year 25. I wanted to explain why that was happening. That department now has been separated. The other item that is a little bit noteworthy is the insurance line, which represents the town's property liability and workers' comp insurance that has continued to escalate. So we're seeing that pressure again in fiscal year 25. But I'm happy to take questions either on what we're doing in terms of process or questions in general about the administration department.
Can I ask what number is on the floor right now? The number that's on the floor is $1,673,255. That is the amended number. And according to the sheet that was published today, excuse me, that would include the benefit tier and what Keith mentioned before, the 20,000 out of consultants and a reduction in contingency. Okay, I remember hearing consultant and contingency in that first motion. Okay. Thank you. Any more questions? Edie? Hey, sweetie. Amy, can you just clarify for me, under the bad debt expense, it was $54,000 in 22, just over $1 million in 23, and nothing in the first current year or the future year? $16 is 94.
Sure. So for those who couldn't hear, we're on page 16 of 94, and we're looking at the prior year columns, the second line from the bottom. The fiscal year 23 number is really related to an accounting adjustment, so it's written off because it was not recorded appropriately in a prior period. So it's not necessarily a cash loss to the town, but an expense that we needed to record in that period, if that's clear. So that was a timing adjustment that we had to take as a loss. The other item is, I'm sorry, I'm reading that backwards. That's the 22 number. The 23 number is the loss that the town realized as a result of the conversion of BITCO and the purchase of the shares and the ultimate resolution of the lawsuit. So there was a difference in the ultimate return of cash that the town received when Island Light and Power was dissolved versus the 1.8 that the town initially invested in that. And so we had to take again, a non-cash loss for that investment.
Okay.
So that's the 23 number.
And we're being very optimistic about this in the year.
Again, those are two unusual accounting situations that happen back to back. I think if I ran this page out backwards, it's going to be nothing like that in prior years. They just happen to show up side by side.
Thank you.
Roberta McCormick, I just have a quick question. I see that we have like 60,000 for a lobbyist and 18,000 for a grant writer. Have we seen the benefits of those two expenditures, and if so, approximately how much are we gaining by hiring those people? Thank you. Me and corporate town manager successfully identify myself. The lobbyists we hired little over 2 years ago, and some of the benefits that we have seen with that, specifically, more specifically with the lobbyists, is on the federal level as opposed to the state level, although they do help us a lot with some of our particular bills and things that we're looking to pass with the General Assembly. Specifically, we're working with the lobbyists. It's helped us with some financial funding that we received for the medical center. They received a $1 million congressional appropriation. And that congressional appropriation was through Senator Jaffrey's office that we put into that congressional appropriation. In regards to the $18,000 for the grant writer, we used the grant writer for a couple of grants, not too many grants this year. One grant we did use them for, unfortunately, we did not get that grant. It was the grant for the maritime facility. When we did receive the notice that we weren't awarded the grant, the folks that we applied for the grant specifically said to us to reapply next year. Usually that happens sometimes. You apply for a grant the first year, you do not receive it. The folks asked us to reapply again this year, and they want to review our application with us prior to finalizing that. So both, from my perspective, have been very beneficial and helpful. We also applied for another grant this year, $1 million grant that I applied for another congressional appropriation through Senator Whitehouse office. So they are beneficial.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Mike. Quick question. We're struggling here with taxpayers. This is the largest budget ever passed. Items like a $5,000 increase to be a management. I think we have to take a hard look at some of these items. I'd like to propose that this item be dropped out from the receipt. Thank you. Thank you. Any more questions? Mr. LaFaro, are you going to make a motion? Or is that just a general question?
I'll make a motion. Drop the
A motion has been made to drop the increase in gear management, which is $5,000. Motion has been made and seconded. Discussion?
Robert Benjamin, and there was no motion made, no element of that motion was made on the basis of what's going on with deer on the island, rather just that we're spending too much money. I'm not going to address the second point, but how much money we're spending, but with regard to the issue of deer management on the island. We've had a little bit of discussion about numbers here that hasn't worked well, so I'm not going to bring my numbers into it.
So I've done a lot of analysis on the growth rates of the populations here on the island. And I'm quite afraid that we're very near a situation where we'll be walking across deer in order to get to our front doors, from our front doors to our cars. And I think deer management is a very important issue. There's a population on the island that can lead to ecological damage as well as great inconvenience to human beings. And I think we've not spent enough on it historically, and therefore we're behind where we should be. And definitely spending more is a good idea. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, David?
So it's been reported in council chambers at one of the public meetings that the deer take this year was over 400, about 404 deer or something similar to that number, 397. And I don't recall that number of deer ever been taken in the past. What I also remember, and please correct me if I'm mistaken, but the town has never funded this deer expense adequately to pay for the bounty on the tails. In fact, I believe that the Residents Association was kicked in some money in the beginning of the fiscal year, and they were also asked to kick some more in at the end in the last couple of months because so many deer were taken. So those are details that I think are quite accurate. My own personal observation, those of us who are living on Lewis Farm have noticed a very distinct drop in the number of deer roaming around in the months of March and April. Thank you. We've always been remarking how we had to tiptoe around the deer droppings all winter and spring. There was little tiptoeing in this year in the months of March and April. I think that's evidence that not only is the town not paying the full cost, but the total cost is worth the effort, and we would hope that it would continue. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm Linda Sack, and my question concerns the Human Services Department and the Senior Advisory
Excuse me,
Committee.
this is about the deer management, the motion on.
No, it's about the senior citizens of Block Island. Were we just doing deer management?
Yeah, there's a motion about deer management that's being discussed.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Come back.
Any other questions?
Vivian Mellon, just in response to the deer. According to the Block Island Residential Association, reduction of deer was one of the most supported votes on this island. So I think when we're considering things like that, we should also consider what the residents have actually voted on for the survey.
Thank you. Any other questions? A motion has been made and seconded to reduce the amount of the increase in deer management. That increase is $5,500. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. All those opposed? We'll try that again with a show of hands. I'm sorry. Everyone in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Thank you. Everyone opposed? The motion does not carry. And we still have the motion for the increase of $1,673,255. And Linda, I think this what you want to speak? This is discussion of that. That's an administration, so.
Well, not what I wish to speak about is part of administration. It's not the whole photo, it's only one part of it. May I say what I thought?
Yes.
Okay. I notice, page 16 of 94, that the wages of the Director of Human Services and the Senior Coordinator, and then the Department of Human Services, which is 8,300, don't seem to be funded for fiscal year 2025. And if they're not funded, but why does it say that they're in here? It's just something separate.
Gonna let Amy clarify that.
So the human services line items have coalesced for the first time in fiscal year 25 into their own department. So it's actually 2 pages ahead, page 18 of 94, that you'll find human services as its very own department that we'll vote on in aggregate. So those line items are funded. We'll talk about them as standalone departments. So if you have additional questions or comments, let's hold it till we get to page 18 and human services, but it is there.
Thank you. So the motion has been made and seconded. In the amount of $1,673,255. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Turning to finance. Page 17 of 94, the upper right-hand corner. The motion would be in order for finance in the amount of $496,715. Motion has been seconded. Discussion? Any question?
So I think we'll get better at this as we move through each department. But the numbers that Chris read, $496,715, is not going to be what you see on page 17, because we've already taken a motion to remove the benefit item. In this case, although not in every case, you will see that on the back of this sheet in the department proposed amended. So we've already made that motion adjusting the benefit line. Sure, the amount on the table for finance, $496,715.
Thank you. Any questions? A motion has been made and seconded, finance, in the amount of $496,715. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Page 18 of 94, Human Services. A motion will be in order to fund the Department of Human Services in the amount of $178,755. Motion has been made and seconded. Discussion, any questions?
Bob Benjamin again. I was just wondering, for point of information, if we had the change year to year, if we brought the original expenses from prior years for these items down, what would the 179 be a change from, and what percentage would that be? Is that possible?
I can't give you an exact number, but ballpark, across what used to be, senior advisory community support, we had a wage line for the Director of Human Services, and we had some incidental funding for, human services supplies and things, and we had a benefit line that was related to the staffing. I believe we were in about the $87,000 to $90,000 range in aggregate last year, which is the first year we had, a Director of Human Services position. So that's sort of the apples to oranges.
So if I had your, can you give me a comparable, tell me the number on the bottom line here you're comparing that?
I would say about $80,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Pat Pingwall, in the Human Services Department, the line item 8001 for ride services. I read that as $8,000. Has the usage of the ride service been adequately funded? Is this an adequate number for the kind of use of the service that we've been experiencing?
To answer your question, yes, it has been.
Okay. Thank you.
Just one other comment that I should have added earlier around the human services funding. There is also, on the revenue side, about $15,000 for grant revenue that's budgeted. That number is actually likely to be a bit higher, but that's sort of what we can count on today based on the program that we're running. And that does include dollars for the rideshare program as well. Thank you.
Any other questions? A motion has been made and seconded on Human Services in the amount of $178,755. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Motion would be in order for central dispatch funded at the amount of $498,276. The motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion, any questions? Yes? Jim, could you wait a minute? Oh, come on. Click on? No, come on.
Jim Hinthorn. Just trying to understand that benefit line. On this one, and I'll save some time because I have that same question on the police department. And I think the same question on harbors. Those are significant increases. And are they headcount related? Because if they aren't, what are they?
Sure, and this answer is gonna go for all three of those departments, dispatch, police, and harbors do have material increases in the benefit line expenses. And it's a little bit headcount, but more, change in personnel in those seats. So that in some instances, we've had, a single individual or an individual with single coverage employed. They've been replaced by somebody who's taking family coverage, and in some instances, that has happened multiple times in the department. So, we are offering those contractually obligated benefits, in family where previously we had zero or single expense. There's an additional element on the police side, and we'll talk about it when we get to there.
Are there any other questions?
If there are no other questions, then I would like to propose an amendment to reduce, the central dispatch budget by an additional $60,000, which is the elimination for fiscal year 25 of the wages for public safety communications. That's a program that was included as part of the override amount that we will not be able to fund it this year. We expect to come back to it next budget year, but don't have the funding to support it this year. So I would recommend eliminating that amount of $60,000.
An amendment has been made and seconded to reduce the amount in central dispatch further. Any discussion, any questions on that? Well,
I believe the question is whether there is a correlating, or associated reduction in the benefits, because that position was new and subject to the cap, so slightly tenuous. We aggregated all the expense in that one line. We didn't break it out.
thank you. So the amendment has been made and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? The amendment carries. The amended motion in the amount of $438,276, I'm sorry, $438,276 has been made and seconded. Any discussion, any questions? Doug? Michelle, my apologies, but the first motion is totally messed with my head. Are we supposed to take out 20,400 for communications operations? In this budget? No? That's what you got on this sheet?
That was initially contemplated as to how we would enter tonight, but with the aggregate motion that the first warden made to open the meeting, he cut some other line items like the personnel consultant that allow us at this moment, if we want, to retain that amount. We can still cut it if you want, though.
Thank you. Yeah.
Judy Gray, what is the 20,400 for?
That amount represents software licensing and equipment that is currently funded through the fire department to maintain all of the head-end operations of the radio system that supports the fire department, police, rescue, and a number of other departments around the town. So we're bringing that into the town's fold.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. All right, so the main motion in the amount of $438,276 for central dispatch. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Page 20 is 94, the upper right-hand corner. Police. Motion would be in order to fund this line the amount of $1,438,833. Motion has been moved and seconded.
Happy to take other questions, but I wanted to get to Jim's benefit question earlier. And I mentioned with police, there's another element, and that is that retirement costs associated with the participation in the state retirement fund, which mandates a certain contribution rate, has escalated significantly. From 24 to 25, that contribution rate has gone from 20% to 25%. And we're going to expect that from 25 to fiscal year 26, it to escalate almost in the same amount. So those are costs that we don't have control over, that we are mandated to contribute at those rates, and we do expect them to continue to go up. So I just wanted to make sure everyone had heard that, and you can get used to it for next year as well.
Yes. Arlene, honey.
For questions, one is, who are the reserve officers for $309,000? Is my understanding was we're just getting some state police on 2 weekends. And on the weekends and it's electricity for $8,000, but the previous budget had the dispatcher had $18,000 for electricity. It's the same building. So how is that allocated?
So why don't I take the reserve officers? We do have year-round reserve officers also, that do patrol. And also, in addition, we have increase in seasonal officers that we also have during the summer months. So we do have additional officers other than what you mentioned of the two police, of the, state police. We got our electricity, there's two different meters. The dispatch relates to the fire bond, and the other one's the police station.
And the housing, I understand that we can only have 4 or 5 CSOs this year, because we don't have the housing for them.
We had 4, possibly 5 because of limited housing. Hopefully by next summer, we'll be able to address some of that as we get the common property built and other things.
Any other questions? Kim?
Why are we paying state police this year? And what is it for? Thank you.
The state police that we have paying for this year, Kim, relates to the additional officers we request for 4th of July weekend, in addition to the 2 that they come on. Also, there's funds budgeted for PJ Day weekend for additional state police. That's what that's related to.
Any other questions? Motion has been made and seconded on police in the amount of $1,438,833. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Public Works, page 21 of 94, upper right-hand corner. A motion would be in order to fund Public Works in the amount of $1,337,997. Motion has been made and seconded. Discussion? Please,
Sorry, Erin Hediger. I just wanted to know why we're contemplating such a giant wage increase for the facilities manager after the assessor situation at the school. I'm just curious, and I'd like that to be discussed with the public. So I'm contemplating taking that off.
Superintendent Dorado, would you mind addressing the asbestos as to what caused it during that particular event that happened?
I'm not talking about the actual situation, I'm talking about the handling of the situation after the facilities manager got notified of the situation. And people saw Matt Brown, a former student of the school, shutting the facilities down and not our facilities manager. So I'd just like to know why he wasn't doing his job and he's gonna potentially get a $9,000 wage increase and my taxes are gonna go up and pay cut. So I'm not okay with that.
Superintendent Dorado, I am not familiar with what this individual is stating about someone named Matt closing down the school.
So, as part of our renovation project, we have to have the building tested for asbestos. As a result of the testing through a consultant, it was determined that there was insulation that was potential asbestos containing material, not asbestos containing material, ACM, PACM. And it's an insulation called vermiculite. We had some repairs going on over April vacation, and the ceiling tiles in the old wing of the building were disturbed. We had some insulation fall. Immediately called our hair consultant. Their recommendation was to seal off that whole area, bring in testing, and then determine if it needed to be abated. We did that. I think there are questions because it was over the weekend of April vacation, so there weren't a lot of staff here. But I don't know who specifically closed or didn't close. I know that the facilities director and I were in communication and said it would get done. And it was done. Fortunately, when we got the test back, there was no asbestos in the air samples. And now we're in the process of getting it abated and getting those plastics as soon as possible. I don't know who that is. I'm not familiar.
Hi, I'm Dave Simpson, the rec director. The person she's talking about is Matt Brown, who was having recreation programs here in the school at the time on Sunday and was assisting in putting up cleats, I guess, to see people, to let people know to stay out of the area. That's what she's referring to. He was here with a recreation program on the weekend.
So who was assisting Tom with that? Again, I wasn't on site, so I don't know who did it.
Tom was on site. Tom Rizzo was on site. And he put up the gate and the sign to go on the school. Okay.
Please come up and speak at the microphone.
I'm making a motion to take that wage increase off the table because I do not want my tax dollars going towards that. That's what it is.
Motion has been made to reduce the line for wages facility manager by $9,990. Seconded. Discussion?
Point of clarification that this particular position is part of a collective bargaining unit. And the wages will be what collective bargain in the end.
The motion has been made and seconded. Any other questions? Jim?
Jim, I guess it's probably factually disputed to whether Tom was there or not there. But setting that aside, isn't this a managerial position? And what's it doing in the bargaining unit?
That's part of what, that's something else. Or managerial positions that you call them. The facilities manager's position, as well as a number of other what we're calling managerial and or department heads, are part of the collective bargaining unit. Most of them are. It's just a few handful of positions that are not part of the Council 94 collective bargaining. I just want to clarify.
Are there any other questions? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? The motion does not carry. A motion would be in order. The Department of Public Works, page 21 of 94 in the upper right-hand corner. The fund in the amount of $1,337,997. Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Are there any questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Page 23 of 94 in the upper right-hand corner. Harbors. A motion would be in order to fund the Harbors Department in the amount of $805,312. Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Any questions? Any questions? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? The motion carries. Building official, page 24 of 94 in the upper right-hand corner. A motion would be in order to fund the Department of Building official in the amount of $229,420. Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Any questions? Any questions? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? The motion carries. Page 25 of 94, in the upper right-hand corner, recreation. A motion would be in order to fund the Department of Recreation in the amount of $444,625. Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Any questions? Any questions? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? The motion carries. Page 26 of 94 in the upper right-hand corner, Library Department. A motion would be in order to fund the library department in the amount of $634,363. Motion has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any questions? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? The motion carries. Page 27 of 94, Department of GIS/Technology. A motion would be in order to fund the Department of GIS/Technology, IT, in the amount of $326,000. Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Any questions?
Pete Stover. This is not about, this year's budget, but at some point, given some of the changes that have occurred, with state statute, and our ongoing and growing need to do stuff around, resiliency, I think, we're likely to need a planner with some real expertise around those issues at some point. So I'm just sort of putting it in your head and ear that this may be an area that, the planner falls across more than one department, but I didn't want to let the opportunity slip that staffing is going to be an important component of the investment in resiliency that we're going to have to see over the next couple of years.
Thank you. Motion is on the floor to fund the Department of GIS/IT in the amount of $326,000. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Page 28 of 94 in the upper right-hand corner, boards and commissions. A motion would be in order to fund Department of Boards and Commissions in the amount of $262,760. Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Any questions? Any questions? Three meetings, I didn't have to. What's the increase in wages and clerk? Accounting for the 20,000 roughly.
So there are, two elements to that, like all of the wage lines in the budget subject to, resolution of the NFPA contract. So there are adjustments related to that. It's also, an increase in the hours for the clerk position, to full-time. Currently at 25 hours.
So the motion is to fund boards and commissions in the amount of $262,760. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Page 29 of 94, in the upper right-hand corner. Department of Community Support. A motion will be in order to fund the department for $901,392. Motion has been moved moved and seconded. Discussion? Any questions? Any questions? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? The motion carries. Page 30 of 94, school support. A motion would be in order. School support in the amount of $5,678,905. Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Any questions? Any questions? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? The motion carries. Thirty-one of 94, the upper right-hand corner, capital tax. A motion would be in order from this in the amount of $1,361,667. Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Sorry, we needed to get the motion on the floor before I can remind everyone where we are. So, looking at the capital tax page, we have presented $1,376,667. So for Ford's motion, opening the meeting, remove $15,000 related to the pickleball grant, which is, brings us to the number Chris just read. $1,361,667 is the motion on the table. However, there are a number of other items that, because they were included in the tax cap, we need to remove because we can't support those with the tax levy. So I would recommend that we amend the motion on the floor, reducing it by $910,000, representing the removal of the pumper for $600,000, the transfer station for $100,000, the dispatch renovations for $100,000, the shoreline access for $60,000, that's the grant we didn't get, and the Old Harbor bulkhead for $50,000, for a total of $910,000. That would bring the twice amended capital tax line down to $451,667, which would keep us in compliance with state law.
So the amendment was to reduce that amount so that the final amount will be $451,667. The motion has been moved and seconded. The amendment, discussion? Any questions?
Wondering if you could give me some explanation as to what the $150,000 for the Coast Guard station is. The bulk of that is, all of that is for the post-track station house. There's a substantial amount of work that needs to be done in that particular building. So that's what the 150,000 for.
Sorry, thank you. The question is, what constituted the $150,000 for the big house as compared to the boathouse that's on the North. The, summer residents there are living in pretty poor conditions. Most of you wouldn't let your kids go to dormitory, college, stuff like that. The cabinets are falling off the walls in the kitchen, the linoleum is peeling up. It's that old big brick linoleum. It's terrible. The house is in tough shape. We've thrown little bits of money at it over the years. This was a constituted effort to try and improve the common areas and put trim around the windows that had been taken off in prior years to fix the tiling in the bathroom, and at least get it to a point where we aren't embarrassed to have kids there. But we're looking forward to a bigger budget in future years to do something significant there for its current purpose. We met there with the town council a couple of weeks ago, a week ago, to imagine all that, but this was Band-Aids toward a bigger fix in the future. Okay.
Yeah, it's just confusing because last year you spent 100,000, so I'm just wondering more upgrades.
It never stops, and right, Amy's everybody find here for us. That included a new dock that's going in. It was a bid, is about to be awarded at next week, I hope, and that would be that would use up almost all of that 100,000. Right.
Thank you. So the amendment to reduce that capital tax line down $451,667. All those in favor? All those opposed? The amendment is passed. So the motion be in order. Capital tax in the amount of $451,667. Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Any questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Debt service, page 32 of 94. A motion would be in order to fund debt service in the amount of $3,988,636. Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Any questions?
Okay, Martha Ball, second, Wharton, discussing things. I just wanted to, and I know nobody wants to take paper home and look at it, but the question always comes up about debt service, where we stand, what we have outstanding. The finance director has really done an extraordinary job putting together this whole document, not just the budget, not just the treasurer's report. There is in it a chart that will give you a bar graph of the debt that is, that we have committed to through 2004. And I don't think this only includes the certain issues, doesn't it? So there's also some that has been voted that has not been issued yet that will be added. So at least $10 million, I think. So these are just things that are really important to look at, take into consideration. And again, I know it's a lot of paper, but it's really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded on debt service in the amount of $3,988,636. Hearing no further questions. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. A motion would be in order for the total budget as amended in the amount of $19,000. All right, wishful thinking. A motion would be in order, the total budget as amended in the amount of $19,286,912. Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion, any questions? Any questions? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? The motion carries. Motion would be in order to authorize the town treasurer, that town pursuant to charter, to chapter 45-12-2 of the Rhode Island General Law, to issue and refund from time to time general obligation bonds and notes or other evidence of indebtedness in an amount not to exceed $1 million to finance the repair, replacement, and or improvement of town roads and bridges. The motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Any questions? Any questions? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? The motion carries. A motion would be in order to act upon the resolution pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 44-5-8 concerning the levying of taxes. Taxes resolved that the electors of the town of New Shoreham qualified to vote upon any proposition to impose a tax or for the expenditures of money in town meeting legally assembled, that the assessment and collection of tax be made on the rateable real estate and tangible personal property of said town for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, in a sum of up to $13,665,271. That said tax includes $695,714 in excess of the 4% property tax cap authorized by Rhode Island General Law 44-5-2 and certified by Rhode Island Department of Revenue, Division of Municipal Finance, in accordance with Rhode Island General Law 44-5-2D. That said tax shall be calculated on 100% of the assessed value of the property, plus any applicable exemptions. The tax assessor shall assess and apportion said tax on the inhabitants and rateable property of said town as of the 31st day of December, AD 2023, midnight, according to law, and shall, on completion of said assessment, date and certify and sign their name and deliver to and deposit the same in the office of the town clerk. On receipt of said assessment, shall forthwith make a copy of the same and deliver it to the town treasurer, who shall forthwith issue and affix said copy a warrant under her hand, directed to the collector of taxes of said town, commanding her to proceed and collect said tax of the persons and estates liable therefore. Said tax shall be due and payable on and between the 15th day of August, AD 2024, and the 31st day of August, AD 2024, and all taxes remaining unpaid of said last name day shall carry until collected penalties at a rate up to 18% per annum upon such unpaid tax, and or said tax may be paid in quarterly installments. The first installment of 25% on or before the 15th day of August, AD 2024, and the remaining installments as follows: 25% on the 15th day of November, AD 2024, and 25% on the 15th day of February, AD 2025, and 25% on the 15th day of May, AD 2025. If the first installment or any succeeding installment of taxes is not paid by the end of the grace period established for each quarterly installment, said grace period end date herein established at August 31st, 2024, November 30th, 2024, February 28th, 2025, and May 31st, 2025, respectively, they shall carry until collected a penalty at the rate of 18% per annum, including the grace period, provided, however, any property tax due in an amount not in excess of $100 shall be payable in full between the 15th day of August and the 31st day of August, 2024, and the quarterly installment provisions hereinbefore permitted shall not apply. And be it further resolved that the collector of taxes shall collect and pay into the town's treasury as the same is collected, the tax this day ordered. This is a true copy of the resolution passed by vote of the electors of the town of New Shoreham at the financial town meeting, May 6, 2024. Millicent McGinnis, CMC, Town Clerk. A motion would be in order. The motion has been made and seconded. Finance Director would like to address it.
I don't usually stop us at this point in the meeting, but I do want to make sure that everyone is here. There's a tax resolution, as the moderator read, it has been amended from what's in your packet. It reflects, the levy from the budget that we adopted today and the cap as, permitted by state law and the Department of Revenue. It has another element, and I believe it's highlighted in the version that you have, that changes the way that the town actually calculates mechanically the tax bill. Some of you may never notice, and that's okay. But currently, we calculate that tax bill based on 80% of your assessed value, not 100% of your assessed value. We are the only community in the state that does that. And at this point, nobody here in the collective can tell us why. And so it's time for us to make that change, join the rest of the world, eliminate an unnecessary and complex step. And I just want to be clear that by doing that, we are not increasing your taxes. The mill rate will come down accordingly, so that at the end of the day, the tax bill will be exactly the same. We're just going to calculate that based on 100% of the value. Hopefully, it'll actually make things more clear going forward.
Motion has been made and seconded on taxes. Discussion, any questions? Any questions? Patrick?
Pat Sangual, would you please restate the amended number for the cap in paragraph 3? It says the 1739, etc.
The total amount or in excess of the cap?
The amount in excess of the cap.
That would be $695,714.
Thank you very much.
Well, any other questions? A motion on the floor. Taxes in the total amount of $13,665,271. And that is $695,714 in excess of the 4% property tax cap. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carried. Resolved that the town treasurer is hereby authorized with the consent and approval of the town council by resolution to borrow from time to time in anticipation of taxes, such sum or sums of money as shall be necessary for the payment of the current liabilities and expenses of the town, and to issue the negotiable promissory notes or notes of the town therefore. The total amount of notes issued shall not exceed the limits prescribed by section 45-12-4 of the general laws as amended. Sums so borrowed during the current fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2023, and ending June 30th, 2024, shall be borrowed in anticipation of taxes assessed as of December 31st, 2022, and sums so borrowed during the subsequent fiscal year, but prior to the next annual financial town meeting, shall be borrowed in anticipation of taxes assessed as of December 31st, 2023. All right. The notes issued pursuant to this authority shall be signed by the town treasurer and countersigned by the first warden of the town council, and such countersignatures shall be conclusive evidence to all holders of such notes of the consent and approval of the town council to loan evidence thereby. All terms and conditions of such notes and the method of sale thereof not fixed herein or by provisions of law may be fixed by the town council. The town treasurer is hereby authorized, with the consent and approval of the town council, to renew such notes from time to time, but any such renewal note shall be due not later than 1 year from the date of the original note so renewed. Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Any questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. Motion to authorize the town treasurer of said town, with the consent and approval of the town council, to place investments as deemed proper and to open or close bank accounts as necessary for the general fund, enterprise fund, and proprietary fund of said town, consistent with any investment policy adopted by the town. Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Any questions? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? The motion carried. Motion to authorize the town treasurer of said town, with the consent and approval of the town council, to issue refunding bonds in order to refund all or part of any public improvement or general obligation bond or bonds that would result in savings to the town, length of term of said bond or bonds to be the minimum required, the same or lesser in time duration, the terms, details, and conditions of such bonds to be set by resolution of the town council. Motion has been moved and seconded. Any questions? Any questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. To authorize the town treasurer, with the consent and approval of the town council by resolution and the board of sewer commissioners pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 45-12-4.3, to issue notes in anticipation of sewer service charges, such sum or sums of money to an amount which, together with any money borrowed in anticipation of such revenues in any prior fiscal year that remains unpaid, shall not exceed an aggregate 80% of the total amount of those revenues due or expected to be received during the fiscal year, as estimated by the town treasurer, or $400,000, whichever is less. Such funds shall be used for payment of the current liabilities and expenses of the sewer commission for the cost of repairing and operation of such sewage disposal systems. Negotiable notes issued pursuant to the authority hereof shall be signed by the town treasurer and countersigned by the first warden of the town council and the chairman of the board of sewer commissioners to the loan or loans evidenced thereby. All the conditions of said note or notes and the method of sale thereof not fixed herein or by provisions of law may be fixed by the town council and, if not so fixed, then by the town treasurer. The town treasurer is hereby authorized and empowered, with the consent and approval of the town council and the board of sewer commissioners, to renew any such notes from time to time, provided that the period from the date of an original note to the maturity of any note issued to renew the same debt shall not exceed 1 year. Motion has been moved, seconded. Discussion, any questions? Any questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. A motion to authorize the town treasurer with the consent and approval of the town council by resolution pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 45-12-4.3, to issue notes in anticipation of water service charges, such sum or sums of money to an amount which, together with any money borrowed in anticipation of such revenue in any prior fiscal year that remains unpaid, shall not exceed an aggregate 80% of the total amount of those revenues due or expected to be received during the fiscal year, as estimated by the town treasurer, or $200,000, whichever is less. Such funds shall be used for payment of the current liabilities and expenses for the cost of repair and operation of such water treatment systems. Negotiable notes issued pursuant to the authority hereof shall be signed by the town treasurer and countersigned by the first warden of the town council to the loan or loans evidenced thereby. All the conditions of said note or notes and the method of sale thereof not fixed herein or by provisions of law may be fixed by the town council, and if not so fixed, then by the town treasurer. The town treasurer is hereby authorized and empowered, with the consent and approval of the town council, to renew any such notes from time to time, provided that the period from the date of an original note to the maturity of any note issued to renew the same debt shall not exceed 1 year. The motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion, any questions? Any questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. To authorize the town council, for a motion to authorize the town council pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 20-3-7 to enact such ordinances as they may think proper to protect and to regulate the taking of shellfish and other fish in the Great Salt Pond, and to impose penalties therefore not exceeding $250 and 3 months imprisonment for any one offense. Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion, any questions? Any questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. To ratify and confirm the actions of the town, a motion to ratify and confirm the actions of the town council in authorizing over expenditures of certain appropriations, which were due to circumstances that could not be anticipated in budget preparation for fiscal year 2024, provided that the over expenditures do not exceed the total budget amount for the fiscal year 2024. The motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Any questions? Any questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. A motion to authorize the town council of the town of New Shoreham to extend grant funds applied for and awarded to the town of New Shoreham, and to the extent grant proceeds from the grant exceed the amount budgeted by the town, to authorize the town treasurer, with the advice and consent of the town council, to extend these excess proceeds for the purposes designated in the grant. The motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Any questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. And for any or all other purposes authorized by law, transact such other business as may legally come before the meeting. Are there any other issues or any other business to come before the meeting? Hereof, fail not, that have you there this warrant at the time and place aforesaid with your doings thereon. Given under my hand the 24th day of April, AD 2024, at the town of New Shoreham, Rhode Island. Attest Millicent Hyatt, NRC Town Clerk. A motion to adjourn would be in order. Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? The meeting is adjourned.